Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score.
Oh.
There it is. A salute to start the hour. Noodles, you don't get in on that?
Well, I saw this the other day. I got to be honest.
You saw Frankie get involved. Frankie get involved.
I know. I was in maybe a media room in Ottawa or somewhere, and it was on, and I see the pro athlete salute or something. I was like, it's just crossed the line. It's just ridiculous.
It's obnoxious.
It's obnoxious.
It's uncalled for.
We don't have
obnoxious.
anything left. We don't play anymore. That's the way that we kind of acknowledge, like, you were an athlete, I was an athlete. It's like a bro hug. It's kind of our thing.
All right. Well, Luke's in here. Luke Wilson. How are we feeling? All good over there?
I feel great, Hayes.
Yeah?
You know, I really do. It's unfortunate that we went 1-1 this week so far, but it's great that we control our destiny. You know, we came into this week +6.
Mm-hmm.
We're now on the Monday Nighter still +6.
Right.
So it's not the kind of, it's not the attitude I like to portray, but at the end of the day, like, you have to catch us.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah. Party, what about this?
Yeah.
Do you not think the Bears-Chargers call made the Detroit Ravens call look like child's play?
Oh, dog, it was a hold my beer moment. We had a poor pick. We had a poor pick.
Like,
with
I'm smart.
Yeah, that's you. Yes.
I'm not Fredo, dude. Don't even start Beetlejuice. Don't even start.
There's no way. It's the worst pick in the history of the Overdrive.
No, it's not even.
Tyson
Bagent.
Bagent.
Come on.
It wasn't
dude.
a good pick. Admittedly, it wasn't a good pick. In retrospect, it was an awful pick. It's a quarterback no one's familiar with. The Chargers obviously found tape, and they found a way to get at him. And moreover, it was more about the Chargers coming off a loss to Kansas City, a loss to Dallas. They're at home. It's prime time. You knew they were going to get theirs at some point.
Against a brutal Chicago.
Against a terrible Chicago team. And Chicago's awful defensively. They're one of the worst teams in the league. It should have been a higher spread. It wasn't. Even if it was, it still would have been a cover for the Chargers. It was a bad pick, bad process. But Dan Campbell versus John Harbaugh in Baltimore, you can't explain that. And I did tell you on Friday, I said betting against Joe Burrow coming off a bye,
that's
healthy, is
that's
absurd.
Trash. He's bringing
absurd.
That's trash.
Because the Niners are struggling, man. Brock Purdy's he's got a
Brock
Nathan
Purdy
Peterman
haters.
vibe.
They're coming out of the ground like The Walking Dead.
He's
They're like,
got
I
a Rex
told you that
Grossman
guy
vibe.
was garbage.
Yeah, it's not good.
The Brock Purdy situation is very, very strange. And we can get into that, but what I think is there's a spider here. Scared me.
Scared the what?
Yeah, my bad.
There you go,
my bad,
JP.
dude.
You're on it. Doogie's on it. Doogie knows what he's doing.
Yeah. The bigger issue in San Fran for me right now. Here he goes.
Coming over to me.
Now Hayes is all
Why'd
worried.
you bring this thing into the studio? I know what this guy's doing.
Doogie, get the hell in there and get the spider out of there.
Get an exterminator on the line, Doogie. You got one job. Figure it out. Come on, Doogie.
So, Steve Wilkes, my biggest loss for the Niners is offseason. Coming into the year, I didn't put the Niners in my top 5, and I got a lot of heat for that, and rightfully so. But my issue was Brock Purdy, but the bigger issue was they lose their D coordinator, D'Amico Ryans, head guy in the Texans, and he's doing a good job. Although they just blew a game that got you a point, he's doing a good job down there. I've played against Steve Wilkes. I don't think he's necessarily an elite defensive coordinator. That's a personal belief. There's a lot of people who disagree with that. But now all of a sudden you see Kyle Shanahan a couple weeks ago talking about his cover 0 call, and you look at this defense who's supposed to be, again, like this is supposed to be the number 1 defense, generational, take him to the Super Bowl. All Brock Purdy has to do is manage games. That was the narrative. You've lost to P.J. Walker. Granted, they played good that game. You gave up close to 400 to Kirk Cousins, and Joe Burrow just absolutely shredded you.
But that can't be a surprise that Burrow did it. Right, like
against this defense?
Yeah, I don't think so. Not in modern football. Not the way the the rules here. Like if you get an elite quarterback who's feeling it, I don't care what the defense is. And he showed that yesterday. Like he absolutely diced them up.
Them.
Like he was so good.
I mean,
and he ran. What did he run for? 45 yards?
44. Yeah, it became Lamar Jackson.
Yes, because he's 100%. I think he finally got there coming off the bye.
And that's where now the Purdy haters have a decent claim here. We've never seen Brock Purdy have to play from behind.
Right, he never lost.
Exactly. He's always been, hey, I can hand the ball, I can do this, I can do that. Boom, we're up 10 points. I control the game. Now all of a sudden, you're seeing him having to force some things, and it's not looking good. The first pick there on the goal line, if you run that playback, it was a shovel pass to Kittle, and it gets blown up on the inside. That's why they had an illegal man downfield. No one's saying he's going to pass this ball. But that's a moment you just can't have. You cannot have that in this league, no matter who you are. You end up throwing a pick there, and then you follow it up. I think it was the next drive to just absolutely piping a linebacker right in the chin with a football. There's some major cause for concerns for the Niners. I mean, they're still wildly talented, and when they get Debo back and when they get Trent Williams back, that'll help a tremendous amount. But my argument is there's a lot of teams in the NFL right now that are wildly banged up that are still finding ways to win games.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yeah, one of them that's not is who is the guy with the rat tail that was playing quarterback for the Giants at the end of that game?
Is it Tommy DeVito? I don't know.
Dude, this guy was out there wheeling around in a rat tail, and you were laughing at that game with Jay last night. That was insanity.
That's one of the worst football games ever played.
Oh,
ever played.
Wow. And Rick DePuto, whoever that guy was, running around out there, the third string QB. You are so sewered when that guy comes onto the field. It's not even funny.
And still Dable screwed that up.
Yes.
You got 4th and short to close the game out. You have to go for it. You have to. And that's where the tush-push stuff comes up. Find a way to create that play. With
I agree.
Rick DePuto, whoever it is.
I agree,
Push it across the line.
What's worse to me is you look at Zach Wilson, and this is something that, and Odog, you brought this out a couple weeks ago, but the man ended up throwing for 240, but he had, I believe, 58 yards of that were on the last drive there in the fourth quarter. And I believe there was a 50-yard check down to Breece Hall.
Where he took off and created all his yardage.
So my point here is the 240 is very misleading. How on earth do you come out here to a quarterback who's barely thrown for 100 yards minus a check down at that point and give up two 29-yard completions that lead to a field goal to bring it into overtime? It's unbelievable to me. And again, it's sometimes these defensive coordinators, they're like, you know what, we got to play it safe, keep everything in front. They're going to throw the big bomb here. Like, no, just do what you've been doing the whole game.
Per game.
He can't throw the big bomb. It's got to be conflicting in New York because the Jets are now 4-3. They've won 3 in a row. I give them a ton of credit. Rodgers every week is doing more. Right? Like yesterday, that guy was slinging it yesterday.
Slinging it.
Legit slinging it with some he's
movement?
Yeah, he's kind of doing like his swag type thing. You know how he used to flick it, and then his leg would go behind his other leg, and like that. He looks like he's almost healthy,
Agreed.
which he's clearly not. But they're legitimately in contention to be a playoff team with Zach Wilson barely performing, basically not supplying them anything. It's shocking.
You don't think that everyone knows that? Have you ever heard their coach, who, Luke, I know you're a fan of, every post game he's like, man, our defense.
Yeah.
Man, our defense. He doesn't ever mention Zach's name.
He can't. He's been awful.
I know. But you'd think he would throw him a bone.
Yes. But you look at the games they've won. They beat the Bills with him somehow in overtime. Obviously, they beat the Broncos. They beat the Eagles. That's a big win last week. Overtime yesterday against the Giants. It's just exposing even the games they lost outside of that Cowboy game week 2, they were close ball games. They lost to the Chiefs 23-20.
And now imagine if you give this team any sort of consistent offense, meaning now I think there was something like 24 punts, did they say, in that game yesterday? I don't know what the exact number is. But imagine instead of this defense having to play the entire game, basically, hey, we're probably going to go 3 and out. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath out there. We've got to play 75 snaps, and we need to find a way to get 2 or 3 turnovers. Imagine flipping the script here and being like, we got this man right here we're watching on the television. He's the swaggiest guy.
He's got Achilles swag.
Yes.
How do you have Achilles swag?
And now all of a sudden, they're having a couple of drives here and there, and the defense is fresh.
Yeah, I know. It makes you realize why they went to get him, why they wanted him, and why they knew if they had him, Rodgers and healthy, they'd be a Super Bowl contending team. And, I don't know what's going to happen with him in the future. I believe he returns next year. But like speaking of Achilles, Kirk Cousins now
That's a dagger.
that sucks because he was
Scary.
playing so
He
well,
was. This
and they
is-
were winning ball games. They were back above 500.
I have a huge gripe about, and let's call it the media, whatever. I mean, that obviously includes me. But Kirk Cousins blows his Achilles out. It's devastating for the Minnesota Vikings. But now all of a sudden the narrative is, should they sell? Trade Danielle Hunter? Sell everybody? Like, the team's not doing anything, blah, 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 blah. There's like no sense of reality sometimes where you have 90 to start, 53 on the roster in there. Yes, your quarterback, who is a tremendous quarterback in this league, goes down. But you have 52 other NFL athletes. You have coaches, front office people, everyone whose lives depend on you playing well, and that's how they feed their family. Because Kirk Cousins goes down does not mean we throw up the white flag and sell everybody off. You're winning games right now. Is it going to be a lot tougher?
Who are you going to get,
yes.
though, Luke? Who are you going to
They'll
get?
Probably go to Colt
Jameis
McCoy.
Winston or Colt McCoy.
They'll probably go to Colt to start. My guess now is you also have Jameis Winston on the block. But here's the next thing I think they're at least fielding calls. I'm not saying this will happen. But everyone's like, oh, now you got to wait for the draft. Well, do you really think? I don't know if you've seen their next 5 games, but they might have the easiest schedule in the NFL. Mm-hmm. With or without Kirk Cousins, they'll win at least 1 or 2 of those.
Well,
They're not going to get a high pick.
Here's another thing that you got to consider is the process of elimination in the NFC, where behind them is New Orleans. New Orleans has a chance to be a playoff team. They do. But, between them and Atlanta, there's a chance that only one team gets to 9 wins, and that's who gets the South. I don't think the Rams are going to do it. The Bucs, I don't think will do it. Washington won't. Green Bay won't. Like, you just keep going on the list. Someone's got to get that last wild card spot.
It's them.
And it very well could be Minnesota. And it would have been. If Cousins was healthy, it would have been.
For sure.
For sure. But you're right. There still is the potential to make the playoffs. You probably get smoked when you get there.
But that's not what
But still
they're
you
thinking.
make it.
Like, that's on the outside looking in, we're all saying sell because you go to the playoffs and you get smoked. But as a person who's in that locker room, that is the last thought in your head. You're thinking, you know what we got right now? An opportunity to get to the playoffs. We got a couple teams we got to take care of in here. We got to find a way. The defense has looked a lot better, and we're going to play upset in the playoffs. We're going to find a way, whomever we're walking into, and find a way to squeak one out. And next thing you know, we're in the divisional round.
Yeah.
That's there. I'm not saying
Sure.
that's the reality, but that's the reality in that locker room.
That is, but here's where, like, this applies to every sport. This is where the general manager has to make a call that is not emotionally driven, right? That now he could, at the risk of losing a lot of guys, right? Like, if he decides to punt, then you might be risking a lot of veterans in that room saying, I don't trust you anymore. This isn't a place I want to be at. But you can't be considering, what they're thinking, what the players are thinking, how they're feeling necessarily, like, to make a full decision.
Agreed.
Doesn't mean that won't end up being the right one, but
Yes.
you got to take a step back if you're the GM and think, okay, what am I doing 3 years from now, 5 years from now? Like, there are a number of things that have to be applied here.
I 100% agree, but my next thing, because everyone keeps talking about Danielle Hunter being traded.
I've heard Justin Jefferson.
That's insanity.
Which
I
is
cannot-
absolutely
There's no
crazy.
way. Because here's where I laugh. If you were like, get rid of Jefferson and get picks.
Yeah.
To do what?
To
Pick
try to find
another
him.
Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, you got that Addison kid. You got a stud one too for the next 5 years.
So this is where my head goes with them trading is you're not going to get a quarterback. You're not going to, unless you lose out, which I don't think will happen, you're not going to have that first pick or the second pick. So you're not going to get a quarterback. You've got Justin Jefferson, who many would argue, myself included, is the best wide receiver in the NFL. You've got Addison, who looks incredible. TJ Hawkinson is now the highest paid tight end. You've locked him up, and he is very,
Stud.
very good at football.
Stud.
You probably need a running back. I don't think they've been thrilled with Madison. You saw Cam Akers yesterday. But again, right now, situation in the NFL, running backs aren't getting paid. So you're not going to draft, unless you're the Lions, you're not going to draft a running back in the first round. So why would you trade a guy in Danielle Hunter so that you can maybe draft a version of him?
I'm with you. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think they'll go down that road. I don't.
And that's where my head is. Even
Think
with
they'll
What
stay
are they
in.
going to do when Cousins is a free agent? They're not going to circle back on him, are they?
I think they will, because you know what just happened? Kirk Cousins
Dude,
is
come
now
on,
$10
though.
million
That's what I
cheaper.
don't. Dude, I
might.
get it, but you know what your max is with Kirk Cousins. You know you're not going to get anywhere different than where he's brought you. Dude, you know that, man.
Dog, I really don't think that's how Minnesota thinks about Kirk Cousins.
Then they're stupid. Then that's why there's stupid people making stupid decisions.
Well,
if you think that one day he's going to wake up and take you to the promise, no way, man.
I think that this team right now is probably looking at the situation and they're saying to themselves, we're going to get Kirk Cousins back next year at $10 million less. We're going to load up in the draft on defensive players, and the defense looks good. We'll go get a running back in free agency, and we are poised to make a Super Bowl run. Because when you have Jefferson and you have Addison, who's played in Hawkinson, if you get a quarterback back there, you cannot tell me with a good defense this team isn't a contender. That's how they're thinking.
Yeah, that's probably how they're thinking. I can't argue
Have you
against that.
checked out where their underpants have been earlier in this season? They have screwed us over, me and Hayes, numerous times. And now all of a sudden they're going to be making runs to the Super Bowl?
I'm not saying, no, not this year, O-Dog. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying next season, this is not a roster that needs to be revamped. This is not a let's sell Jefferson, let's sell Danielle Hunter. This is not that. This is a roster that needs a couple pieces, and they are going to be there.
All right, let me ask you this. Week 1 next season, how many new starting quarterbacks are playing in the NFC North? So it's Fields, Love, Goff, Cousins. How many of those
I'm going
are
to set the
starting?
line at 1.5, and I'm going to take the under.
Under?
I think Fields will be replaced. Goff, no. Goff's playing at a very high
Jordan
level.
Love is starting to concern people.
He should be.
It should be. It's
He
off.
should
They
be.
haven't scored.
Oh, look at
Yeah.
that.
Hey,
You were
listen.
so high on that guy.
I
You're
thought he
like,
had a great
he's
start.
my guy. I've been waiting 5 years for that guy.
He had a good start. They haven't scored a touchdown in the first half in 5 games. Do you know how hard that is to do? That's like almost impossible
I
Dude,
agree.
it's-
to do
sucks.
that in modern football.
It sucks.
Yeah, it's really bad. He like routine throws. He's messing up. He looks overwhelmed. He doesn't look very good. He's young, but he's not like right out of the draft. Bryce Young. You know, he's been in the league and in that system with LaFleur for years.
And that's as a casual Green Bay Packers fan, wouldn't you be saying it's one thing if it's Aaron Rodgers that had to sit there and wait for so long and you wheel him into the lineup and he's that good? But why did you invest so much if that's the return you're getting for a guy that's been marinating that long?
They were
that's
hoping.
Insane.
They were hoping. I'm sure they saw stuff in practice, in camp, mini camps.
And that's
I
where-
told you it was a small sample size, but you saw him in Kansas City last year with his parents up sitting in the parking lot. He was awful.
Yeah.
It's been bad.
Remember his parents were in the last row?
Yes.
Weren't they? In the
Last
last
Worst seats
Bro.
in the house.
Yeah,
Starting
that's an
quarterback.
NFL thing.
Taylor Swift
That's
mocking
an
them.
NFL thing. It's
What,
very
your parents
strange.
get garbage seats?
No, yeah. O-Dog, it's funny. So I didn't know this about the NHL, but he actually just retired, but I went to high school with Zach Cassian. We were pretty good buddies. So when he was in Vancouver, I would head up there, and he'd be like, yo, I got tickets. And I'm like, I'll probably be in the bleachers, or right at the top. I had these great seats. I'm like, dude, how much do I owe you? He's like, oh, no, you're good. For us, home games were very average seats. If we were on the road, you're sitting, if you're there, whatever the wall is at the top, your family's sitting
How
up
does
there.
the PA not step up and say,
Yeah.
can we negotiate
It's
better
insanity.
tickets? Like,
like-
do you have a representative in the Players Association?
I mean, this is a whole nother chat, but our union is you want to talk about a real fraud?
Yeah.
The NFLPA.
Yeah.
That's
fraudulent.
You want fraudulent activity? The
Yeah.
NFLPA.
Yes.
And the stories will never end.
Like, that's an example. Like,
Yes.
you got, it's difficult because you're talking 53 players, every team, coaches. But these stadiums hold like 65,000.
and they aren't free on the road. So, and
Right.
this is across the league here.
We'll give
So
you garbage, and you also have to pay.
pay for them. Now, face value, but if we were at home, I would get 2 for free and the ability to buy 2. And then on the road, it was you have to buy them all and just know that whoever your friends and family will be sat in the corner at the very highest row.
That's wild, man.
That's garbage because in the NHL, on the road, the road team gets access to 50 tickets to buy. None of them comped. But the seats are not garbage. They're usually lower bowl, and they're respectable because the seats you're buying are usually for family and friends if you're a player. So Like, that's in the CBA. That's literally in the CBA. Like, if the LA Kings are playing the Leafs tomorrow, if Todd McClellan has family, he can ask team services, I'd like to put in for 4 tickets. Now, he'll have to pay whatever the face value is, whatever they charge. If it's $500 a ticket or whatever, that's coming out of his pocket. But they're not sitting in the rafters or in the parking lot.
Right.
Those
I'm
are
telling
good
you,
seats.
Every
crazy,
single
man.
place we went to. And again, like you talk about Jordan Love, but he's on his rookie deal. Like, it gets to the point where if you have 10 or 11 people in town, you're playing face value to sit him in the rafter.
That's crazy, man. That is crazy because, and again, if you're Love, like, I don't know if you're inviting people right now because it's just not going well. Like, and quite frankly, this draft is supposed to be stacked with quarterback talent. If they end up with a top 5 pick, I wouldn't be shocked if they took another quarterback. Like, I would not be shocked if they've seen enough.
Yes.
To say, and listen, he's going to get the rest of this runway, which
They
he
will, for
deserves,
sure.
and he has to. And maybe it changes, right? Maybe they've already had their bye, but maybe it gets to a point where they get to U.S. Thanksgiving and the final 3 or 4 games, he starts showing something. Then they got to make a call, kind of like the Bears did with Fields last year, where it's like, we got to make a call. Have we seen enough? Do we know enough? That's on them to figure out, but it'll be tough. If they have a top 5 pick and one of these kids drops to them, to pass on it, dangerous game, man.
It's a
'Cause it's the
dangerous
one
game.
position you got to have. You got to hit properly.
But
you have to.
Yes, but I also think now you're going to see a lot of, like, let's call it hubris. Looking at now, this is at the time, it's not a great argument, but let's go backtrack to 3 weeks ago. You're going to see a lot of GMs that are saying to themselves, we don't need a quarterback. We can get a guy that just manages the game. Let's fill in other spots. Because the quarterback draft is such a gamble. And it's not even, for me, it's not just on the player, but you got to take an honest assessment of, do you have a guy who can develop a quarterback into an elite player? How
Look at
is
the
it
last
that-
5 years, dude. All the guys they said were going to be gods. And
Yeah.
Exactly.
more than 3/4 have been stiffs.
But here's the thing on
Yes.
that position, it's worth the gamble. It's worth it. If you miss, so be it. You gave it a shot. Like, that's the position where it's worth
I
it.
think that's an outrageous comment.
Like, look at Fields.
You can't win if you don't have a quarterback.
Look
you
at Brock
can't-
Purdy.
Yeah, but Purdy's not winning right now. And how many Super Bowl rings does he have?
I mean, that's unfair. He's only been in for 12
I know
games.
that.
13
And he had
games.
Tommy John or whatever. He blew his arm out.
Okay.
But still, listen, I'll
I
believe
agree.
that when I see it. And I also think you're talking a team with like Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer.
Yes.
Like, the Niners are stacked. You put Brock Purdy on the 16th best, like, most talented team in football, I think they finished 500 at best. So my point being is you look at what Burrow did yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, you have a guy like that, and I understand there's very few guys. Look at Trevor Lawrence. Look what he's already doing to a
He's
franchise
stud,
that was
man.
a
I
joke.
think the Jags are real deal.
Absolutely.
Holyfield.
They're undefeated on the road. They haven't lost, and they're going to run away with that division. Run away with it. They may end up with the top seed in the AFC. I wouldn't be surprised.
Speaking of that division, one of the strangest things that happened yesterday was the Titans. I mean, how do you go from not being able to move the ball? You've got DeAndre Hopkins in there, and then you're like, we'll throw this rookie in there. And I was laughing because before the game, I'm like, I'm not a huge gambler, but I'm like, I bet Hopkins is going to ball out because what would I do? If I was a rookie, you know what I'm doing? Throwing
Throw it
the ball
in.
to D-Hop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not? And all of a sudden, you get this, is it Levis?
Yeah, Will Levis.
Goes
He's
in there
jacked.
and just shreds Atlanta.
Now, he was a first round.
Will
No, he dropped,
Levis.
didn't he? Did he drop out of the first round? He was in the green room.
How does a guy play that well when you've had such a hard time at that position?
Hey, you know what? Maybe to
question.
your point, that's what Minnie's going to do. They're going to find a Will Levis to start chucking
Mm-hmm.
it to Jefferson.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right, Lukey, and that's why you're my pardsy and a former pro athlete.
Okay, well, with that in mind, let's get to the pick tonight, where I see this as a Matt Patricia revenge game vicariously through Josh McDaniels. And why I feel good about my chance of winning tonight.
What a
He's trying to
loser.
tickle my
That's a
heart.
No,
non-pro
I'm just
athlete
saying.
Oh, he's
I'm
getting,
just saying.
it's getting personal.
McDaniels rolls into Detroit and wins one for Matt tonight. I see it happening, but listen, my Bears pick.
The line's down to plus.
No, it's not.
plus.
That's your +6. The line's at 7, right? Or is it 7.5, Duke? It's at 7. The one thing I have going for me is you cannot pick a Lions game. You cannot.
We're 1-1 with
You're
the Lions.
incapable of picking.
We're 1-1.
Game.
Look, I'm
We
gonna
set
go.
18 last year. We got screwed because
What
we
is
ended up
this?
taking
Vegas at Detroit.
Yes,
Yeah.
Vegas at
Getting
Detroit.
6.5.
No, 7. Detroit's a 7.
Give us
point
6.5. Give us 6.5.
We're not brokering for points here, right, Doogie? This is the kind of garbage we have to deal with.
you sewered us the other day. It was actually 9.
Buddy, you have no idea.
I got
the problems
sewer with the
that
Bears
Doogie
last
has
night. Yeah,
going on.
Doogie's got
Doogie's
personal
a
issues.
mess.
He's got some
A
mess
mess.
What happened?
going on.
It's not good. He got left at the
Just-
altar,
oh,
and it
yeah.
was.
He bought tickets for the Raps, and he didn't know how to ask. He's a mess.
Yeah.
you got to
Oh,
talk
gosh.
to him privately.
It's not a good scene right
And
now.
last thing, before Luke leaves, he needs to see the picture of O-Dog at the basketball
Yeah.
game.
Oh no, I was at the Colts game yesterday.
Colts game,
Oh,
sorry.
he was at Lucas Oil Stadium. He loves that place. He
Uh-oh.
saw Jim Irsay after the game. They had a
No,
stopping
no, he
test.
didn't. No, he
Yeah,
didn't.
he did. Watch, show from the bridge can show me. Oh, was at the Colts game last night, and he was dressed up as.
Look,
As
do you
Beetlejuice.
think once this picture goes up on our monitor, do you think that looks like me?
Tell me that's
No,
not
Parts, it's not you, man.
your- Look at that guy.
Say it so.
That guy was on the Niners yesterday, and that guy loved Detroit at Baltimore a week ago. That guy loved Detroit at Baltimore. All right, so Detroit at home against Vegas tonight. Who are you guys picking?
I'm guessing our pick is the Lions. Pardsy,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, though.
It is,
Yes,
but I hate
yes.
it.
Josh
I hate-
McDaniels' revenge game.
No,
Patricia.
no.
I don't love it. The Lions should win this by 14.
Yes.
No kidding, but stop saying that because every time you say that, it's a switch in the underpants.
I'm sorry. Oh, dog, they got beat so bad last week. What I get nervous is the defense. The Lions' defense should be fine tonight, but do they get exposed? And then all of a sudden, if this becomes a shootout, it's not the way the Lions want to play ball. Do I think they still find a way to win? Yes, but 7 points in a shootout is a lot because the Lions are not a shootout team. Goff can sling it around, but they want to hand the ball to Gibbs. They don't have Montgomery in. So to me, if we can get out to a hot start, even if it's just 7-3 after the first quarter,
What about
we'll
this?
cover.
The Raiders suck. So you got to keep that in mind.
I
They
agree.
suck.
That's why
and
we're
they
rolling
find
with Detroit.
ways to screw up stuff. So that should
I'm not
happen.
worried about the Lions losing. I'm more worried about the 7 points.
Yeah, well, that's what I see happening too. Because your boy Max Crosby, who I think's a Michigan guy.
He's getting locked up tonight.
No,
He's an Eastern Michigan guy.
Eastern Michigan.
Yes.
He loved the Lions, and he's so pissed that they passed on him 3 times. He said, "I'm going to get him tonight."
He's getting locked up.
He's got his whole family up in the top row, and Ford Field will be rocking with Crosby fans. I'll bet you he crushes tonight.
This is what I'll say.
Crushes
I
tonight.
want to just preface this now. After the Lions cover tonight, we'll be back to +7. So this week will be another +1 because we came in the week at +6.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen the matchups next week. Doogie, every single one of them that we're probably going to pick is a bloodbath.
Massive game.
Massive.
Game.
I'm going to be on record right now. It's 5:27:45 according to this clock. That after next week there will be no more hope for Hayes and Co. We will win tonight. We will have an immaculate weekend next weekend, and it'll be game over. There's no coming.
I'll be inside a field goal by this time next week.
No shot.
That's a
Yes,
guy with
I
a
will
set
be.
of bowling balls for nuts to make that comment.
I'll be inside a field goal. The spread will be 2.5 by this time next week. Because we're talking Dolphins, Kansas City, and Germany. Seahawks, Ravens.
Yep.
What does
Eagles-
Germany have to do with anything?
Oh,
You
they're
know- you
playing
just
there.
love
I mean,
I have
tossing
bad
that in
news.
there.
You have the Thursday nighter, and just like we're
I know, I
undefeated
hate
in
that
London,
game.
you know we're going to be undefeated across the pond in Germany. Don't
no,
matter.
Take us to
Germany's a
Germany.
different
We'll
beast.
do it over there.
I know who
We'll
you guys
do
are going
it.
to pick. And
Who
you're
we gonna pick?
You're going to pick Kansas City.
Nope.
Yes, you
Miami.
are.
I'm putting it in right now.
No,
I'm
you're
putting
not.
it in right now.
I would love for you to take Miami. There's no chance you're
you see
taking
what he's
Miami.
trying to do here, Oda?
There's no chance you're taking Miami. Kansas City coming off a loss. Travis Kelce at the ball game the other night. How does he get a pass for that?
That's
a
why
bad
I'm
look,
thinking
isn't
that's
it,
a
in the
bad
NFL?
look.
It
Like
is
he was
bad.
in New York doing his thing for a
when
while.
you lay
and
a
then,
stinker and all of a sudden,
That's-
like you randomly guys are at a baseball
like
game.
in Texas on Friday,
Yes.
they play in Denver on Sunday. How is
Bad
Travis
look.
Kelce there?
I remember my rookie year, and I took this with me my entire life. I was kind of like being a stupid rookie, pouting a little bit. It was New Year's Eve, we're in the facility. Christmas, we're in the facility, and I'm just, again, being a clown. Stupid rookie. And the equipment guy came up to me and was like, "Hey, buddy, He's like, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. Like all my buddies are having a good time, whatever. He said to me, and this is a guy I have a wild amount of respect for. He said, Luke, when this season ends, you have the ability, which none of your buddies have, to have a New Year's Eve style party every single weekend in any city that you want to. Quit pouting, quit your whining, get off Instagram, lock it in, like, let's go win the Super Bowl. And I was like, again, it's ignorant, whatever, but it's the truth. And I see this stuff with these guys, and like, Kelsey's a prime example. He's obviously the best tight end. I think when it's all said and done, he'll be the best receiving tight end to ever play the game. But it's like, man, this guy has the ability to throw parties or enjoy ball games or do whatever every single weekend in the offseason. Like, you're giving the media a reason to blame if something goes sideways. Mm-hmm. Even if it doesn't have an effect on it, like, you're just putting yourself in a vulnerable spot.
Right.
I don't like it.
Yeah. And in the NFL, it's just a rarity, right? You never see, like, he would have had to ask Reed and company for a pass, and they would have known that guy can't go anywhere on earth without cameras finding him right now.
And
he's at game one of the World Series.
I'm assuming he's flying private, but even that, it's like, you're going to catch, not last Sunday, but you're supposed to catch 8-9 balls a game. That's 8-9 times you get tackled, let alone all the blocking. Like, it's tough on your body, and now you're putting on an extra hour and a half on a PJ back and forth or whatever.
Not a short flight, Kansas City to Texas. Man.
Yeah, it's not the greatest vibe right there. That's probably why Miami's going to cover.
All right,
spread
there you go. You guys should actually take the Dolphins. But you're on Detroit tonight, laying 7 at home. Matt Patricia, thinking about you, man.
I can't believe
Thinking about Matty P tonight.
Bring that man up.
This one's for Matty P
It's
tonight.
not for Matty P. No one likes Matty P.
This one's for Matty P. Do it for Matty P tonight. Do it for Hayes and Company and Matty P. All right, there's Luke Wilson. Give a salute, and you guys can get out of here.
Party.
OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, something to chew on brought to you by Boston Pizza coming up. The sports equinox tonight. 30th time in history. The big four sports in North America all happening tonight. NFL, NHL, NBA, and, of course, Major League Baseball Game 3 of the World Series tonight. MLS playoffs as well. A couple of matches in MLS tonight. So a 5-pack. Lots going on tonight. Lots going on. We'll get to our something to chew on brought to you by Boston Pizza again a little bit later this hour. Really difficult story coming out of the UK over the weekend. Adam Johnson losing his life on the ice. Sure, a lot of people have seen the video. If not, they've read about the story where he took a skate blade to the neck and he died. He lost his life, which again is incredibly difficult to see and to read. But it has launched a conversation among the hockey world about how preventable this type of stuff is, what maybe should happen, what could happen with professional sports leagues. Obviously, minor hockey, you're wearing a neck guard, you're wearing a lot more protective gear. As for the play itself, I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen someone's skate come up like to that extent in the fashion that it did. It wasn't.
There's a lot of lunatics saying this guy karate chopped him in the neck. Like,
no,
I
don't. I think if you're getting to that point, I don't think. Who goes on I don't know the person involved, the player involved, but who jumps at someone with their skate and tries to get someone in the neck? It was a very unfortunate play, and it looked very strange. I don't know what the guy was doing, but the end result is what really sticks out here clearly. And, as for wearing neck guards, you guys can probably speak to it. As pro athletes, you would have had to warn them when you were kids. But once you got to the OHL or the CHL, you didn't have to wear them anymore. And
it's one of those things, Hayes, where it's like I joke about not wearing the bucket in warm up, but looking back on it, what if I was one of the guys that had an injury like Taylor Hall in warm up, or what if something worse happened in warm up where I don't know. You think of all these things where it's such a. There's so many elements to this where it's like you get to the best league in the world and you think maybe I know the ropes well enough and I'm a professional, so I don't need a neck guard. But then looking back, what happens if that happens to you and a neck guard could have prevented it?
Right.
So it's like you're the best players in the world, But as bad as this is, what are we going to do? I guess there's only so much more equipment they could wear, period. You know, we've talked about the stuffs on the back of the ankles and on the wrists. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
It's just, I think about the kid's family. It's such a terrible thing.
It's awful.
But what are we going to do every time? Like, I don't know. It's just.
I will say that you hear, and you guys can speak to this more, but the hockey socks and that now that have that little bit of Kevlar or whatever it is that you can't uncuttable kind of thing, like that's probably, and again, it's easy for me to say, retired, don't play anymore, that the stuff that the guys use and wear underneath their gear probably could be extended into somewhat of a turtleneck or a neck guard or whatever. And in hindsight, you're looking back on this and saying, you know, woulda, coulda, shoulda. But, you know, gear and protection has evolved. So I do remember, even as a goaltender, you know, you're around, your legs are exposed and stuff like that, and guys' skates are around. So, you know, having the socks that are uncuttable, you know, it prevented a lot of little nicks and cuts here. So, you know, my son is actually going to hockey right now. And, you know, he does have like a shirt that covers his neck that is uncuttable. You know, I don't know if it's a comfort thing, if it's whatever, but, you know, I don't think it would be that big of a deal if guys did have it. It might be more the feel for it. Again, you need it breathable.
But you grew up with it, right? Like,
Right.
that's the thing. You can't play hockey and minor hockey in this country without wearing a neck guard. So it's the same thing as going from a cage to a visor.
Right.
You grew up using a cage. Does the visor offer up more vision? Does it make you feel more professional? Yes, but you know, at some point, it really the essence of this story is that you can't control what every other guy is doing. You know, you can control yourself to an extent. That said, you can't get out of bounds. It's a really fast sport. It's a physical sport, and there's a lot of people on the ice, right? So you're going to run into people. Things are going to happen. But you get into a scrum, someone falls. Like, sadly, this was inevitable, and sadly, it will probably happen again somewhere in the hockey world at some point. And, you know, I've always argued, and it's easy for me to say again because I'm not playing. And I get you guys know it, and I know it. You know, playing all the way up into the there were certain things I liked with my equipment that others wouldn't have. Right? And I remember I rolled up my sleeves a lot. My wrists were always exposed.
Mine too.
And it was more of a comfort thing, whatever. But
that's one of those things. When I got to the NHL, the trainer grabbed my elbow pads and said, "You want to wear your wrists like that? Your arms are going to be broken in a week."
Right.
So he made little plastic extender things that cover all your wrists.
See, and that's what I think is probably going to happen at some point, and I think it makes sense. I don't think it's an overreaction to this situation, which, you know, is extreme. It was lethal in the end. It was an awful scenario. But you're not, by updating the rules surrounding what type of equipment players have to wear, it doesn't affect the X's and O's of the game. Right. You know, it's not like you're saying all of a sudden you've got to get rid of skate blades. You know, obviously that can't happen. It's not as if you're saying contact is completely out of the sport or anything along those lines. Asking players to wear a neck guard, I think at some point, and I don't know when this is going to happen, but it wouldn't shock me if in the next 50 years or whatever, in the NHL, they're wearing cages, right? Like, it's slowly gone from no helmets to visors, and eventually it'll probably be a cage. And I think players will complain. It'll get grandfathered in. But then in 100 years, you won't know any better. And the same thing probably applies to a situation like this, where a neck guard, it can be uncomfortable. You might feel uneasy. It may, you know, there's a number of different things where it can bother individual players. But if it's going to have a significant protection layer and supply a layer of protection, eventually I think that's going to happen. And I think players will just get used to it. And again, if you're a fan watching, it makes no difference to you, right? If Austin Matthews is playing tomorrow night with a neck guard, it doesn't change the way you view the game. You know, it's just for the benefit of the players. And I think eventually that will probably happen.
Well, I mean, we all have in the last, when was the Clint Malarchuk?
That's a long time ago now,
But,
40
so
years
let's say
ago.
40 years ago.
35 years ago.
In the last 30, 40 years, there is one or two instances you can think of. Was it Richard Zednick in Florida, in the corner there? Like, there are things, and I don't know, people say, is it preventable, not preventable? You do what you can. I come back to comfort. I come back to, if it is grandfathered in, or they just start manipulating underwear, we'll call it, and equipment that slide up, then that cover, critical areas, like your jugular is right there, your throat.
exactly.
Like it's a critical area. And really coming back to it, this is a sensitive topic, but, first and foremost, it's just horrifying to see. I mean, I saw some videos today where it's saying, let's remember him this way, his first NHL goal, and that. You see all sorts of things coming out today, but there's no positivity about
No,
this.
it's
just
awful.
an awful thing.
He lost his life playing hockey.
Yeah.
And I mean, the play is incredibly fluky, and it's it's again something. If you haven't seen the video, you probably don't want to see the video. It's very harsh. It's very difficult to view. And you're right, Noodles, that like you can't have an overreaction, and in reality, you can't have full protection in life. It's not possible. Right? Like you can go as far as you can. Driving a car, you can do whatever you can to be as protective as possible, but there's always going to be an inherent risk that comes with that. The same thing if you play any sport, there's a chance, right? Especially if it's a physical sport. In this is very unique. People are skating around with blades and with sticks, and you can't run out of bounds. There's a number of things in hockey that make it inherently risky. There's no questioning that. So it's I don't think it's about getting to a point where you bubble wrap all the players and anyone would be expecting that. I think it's just, a reasonable conversation where probably current athletes should be included.
Yep.
And whatever type of equipment companies are involved here to say, how can we make this work where you could try to avoid as many of these fluky accidents that can be really damaging. Like, how far can you go before you're like, and I don't have that answer right now. I don't think anybody does. How far do you go where you're like, okay, we've balanced it properly. Players are as protected as they can be. We got to go play the game,
Wow.
And
it's just really, it's really dangerous out there, man. Like, to think that, I don't know, we all played for a long time to get out and nothing serious. Like, it's scary to think that could have happened at any moment. You know what I mean? To any of us.
Any moment.
Well, that's it.
It's scary as hell,
You're skating and someone gets slew-footed or tripped or whatever, and his skate comes up. Pucks, like you guys are dropping to block shots. You take one off the face, that could kill you.
Like, I'm not off the temple. You take one, like it just.
That's the sport. It's a dangerous sport. Yeah. Very dangerous sport.
It is. It's awful. But I do believe that the conversation should be brought up. Like, and I think it is a scenario where, get the current players involved, the PA involved, all of that, like, and say, and you're right, Hayes, the manufacturers, like there are things now that technology is so strong now. There are manufacturers that can, I'm sure, have breathable material and stuff that are going to be comfortable for guys to wear to get the most coverage possible, so that within reason, again, you can't, bubble wrap everybody, but within reason for critical areas on the body. But, it's just an awful scenario. And I just, there's nothing that you can say to, really soften the blow. It's just, it was a tough scenario, and it's awful.
Well, exactly. And listen, individual players are going to have their own views. And they're not wrong in having those. Like there's a separation between what the league is going to mandate and then going to players and asking them, what are you comfortable with personally? Because I'm sure every player in the NHL has a different viewpoint on this, what they're willing to wear, what they want to wear, how they think, how often they think about it. And again, though, you look at the helmet in particular in the sport, like when we were kids, helmets were option. It was an option if you wanted to wear a helmet. Sounds crazy today, but there were a lot of players in the league that didn't wear a helmet.
I played with Craig McTavish.
Yes.
He did not wear a bucket.
The mid-'90s, he wasn't wearing a helmet. Like Doogie was almost alive, and Craig McTavish was driving her. I'll guarantee you Doogie doesn't know who Craig McTavish is.
He better.
No, he doesn't. There's no Doogie. Jump on the mic. Don't Google it. I can see him. He's Googling right now. He's
Googling.
Cheating. He's Googling, JP, isn't he? He just Googled Craig McTavish. He doesn't have a clue. You know what he told me earlier today? And we got to stop doing this because, again, it makes us look like old losers. But I'm realizing, like, I've reached that. Like, remember our parents used to do that? You don't know who that? I'm like, no, I don't know who that is. There was a show in the 50s. How would I know that? See Flavor Flav sang the anthem in Milwaukee.
It was something else.
I don't know who made that decision, like how you are in a boardroom saying, I've got an idea. But
Yeah, get Flavor Flav.
Flavor
From
Flav.
Public Enemy, the guy with the clock?
The guy with the clock. And he does not sing very well.
He doesn't sing. No.
No,
He's
like-
got a raspy voice.
Yes. He was the hype man. I don't think he was even really rapping or singing in Public Enemy. I asked him about Flavor Flav, and Doogie's like, I don't have a clue who that is. And naturally, he shouldn't. Public Enemy was popular 40 years ago.
I saw Public Enemy live in concert. It was very, very scary. Like in Richmond, Virginia. And Chuck D was on
Chuck D
fire
was
that night.
he was great, man. Public Enemy, they got some good stuff. Anyway, all right, we'll come back with something to chew on, brought to you by Boston Pizza. Chris Johnston still to come. Todd McClellan, the head coach of the Kings. Kings in town tomorrow night. He's still to come as well. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050, and on the TSN app. All right, Canada's largest demo club sales back at Golf Town to celebrate. Listen to First Up on OverDrive this Friday for your chance to win a $500 Golf Town gift card. Plus, follow us on Instagram at TSN 1050 for more chances to win. Golf Town's demo club sales, your chance to save up to 40% on gently used demo clubs from top brands like TaylorMade, Ping, Callaway, Cobra, Mizuno, and more. Early online access begins November 2nd. Golftown.com, then goes in store November 4th. All the details again at golftown.com. So we will get to our Something to Chew On, brought to you by Boston Pizza. Sports Equinox tonight, Game 3 of the World Series, Monday nighter. Hockey games, Raptors playing tonight. Chris Johnston coming up. It's going to be great.
I can't watch Moreno. I can't hear everyone talking about him in the light that they're doing.
He might win the MVP. He really might win the World Series MVP. It's a very
That'll be a problem in this town, man.
Yeah.
That will be a serious problem.
I was looking at FanDuel today, like the odds to register a hit tonight. To register a hit tonight, he's got the shortest odds. Like FanDuel is basically saying he's getting a hit tonight. So you got to pay serious juice. That's how well he's playing. Hour 3 coming up.